What is up, everybody? Today on Auto Joe, we're going to be reviewing this 2014 Audi A5. So of course, as you can see, we're in a convertible, right? So we reviewed the Coupe on my car a few months ago, and of course I really wanted to revisit this car, and today we have the convertible version of that. So if you are cross-shopping between the two, which you might be, if you like the Coupe, but you're not so certain you can get into one for the prices, and of course with convertibles, they're often a little cheaper on the pre-owned market. So today I'm going to be talking about the difference between the Coupe and of course here, the convertible, and telling you whether or not you should buy the convertible. Before we begin the drive, let's talk about specs. So in this Audi A5 convertible, we have the turbocharged 2-liter 4-cylinder, which makes 220 horsepower and 258 pound-feet of torque. Paired to it is the 8-speed Tiptronic automatic transmission, which is an option. In fact, this car comes with a CVT stock. So I'm very happy we don't have the CVT here, but note we also have all-wheel drive, so it's going to add to that curb weight a bit. As far as styling, I have always loved these A5s. I feel like the Coupe is a little more stylish than the convertible, but the rear end of these cars is just absolutely fantastic. Very good looking car, even in the convertible option. Alright, so let's get this thing out on the road. We're going to start with the top down in a very warm 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a very chilly day here in New Hampshire, being of course February. It's just about 20 degrees today. We don't have a lot of wind, but even with this top down, you're gonna experience some really chilly winds, or at least I will, and you guys can laugh at me as I freeze my butt off. But I feel like you can't do a convertible review without having the top down, so here we are. And so although it's quite cold, we have our heat up all the way. We don't have the fans up all the way because of course, we want to get a nice audio clip for you guys. But we do have the heated seat on, which is toasting my buns and keeping me quite warm because it's, of course, very chilly out. So this A5 is listed at First International Auto Group. Thank you to them, obviously, for providing us this car. But it's listed at First National Auto Group for just above $14,000. And so with an odometer reading of 84,000 and change, it's a very nice car. We have plenty of options in here. We have dual climate control, heated front seats, of course, which are leather and powered. So it's really easy to get a nice driver's position in here. I'm very comfortable sitting in this seat, and I fit pretty well in this car. So although this is a convertible, and of course you give up some space in the trunk, you really do feel like you're driving a rather large car, because you are. These A5s are still big, even though they're 2 doors. We have back seats, which are fairly usable, although sitting behind myself, I kind of struggled to get enough legroom, but that's okay. So although I've criticized the 2-liter 4-cylinder that is in this Audi A5, it was fairly competent in the Coupe, and so I feel like it's not too shabby in the convertible as well. There's definitely a little more weight than there is power, but you're not really looking for that if you're gonna be buying one of these convertibles. You're looking for a comfortable car that's relaxing, easy to drive, smooth on the road, and that's really what this car is. There's a good level of refinement with the top down here, as we have leather seats that are really comfortable. We have mostly high quality buttons and surfaces in this interior, although I will say that the center stack is that of, like an A3 rather than say the A6 or some of the S model buttons. The steering wheel is nice to hold. It's quite ergonomic in a standard round shape provided by Audi, although I do like their D-shaped wheels quite a bit better. So we do have a sport mode in this car that also allows you to control which gear you're in, because of course this is the 8-speed Tiptronic automatic. which this car comes standard in, is not something I would want to drive. I definitely think if you want one of these A5s, whether it be the convertible or the coupe, you're gonna want the 8-speed. Woo! So this car is by no means quick, but it has enough power to get itself up to highway speeds fairly easily. And the 8-speed automatic is not necessarily quick, but it's smooth. I think most of the time if I were to drive one of these A5s, I would probably just leave it in normal mode, let the 8-speed kind of do its thing, because I'm not really going to want to be doing much sporty driving in this car anyways, especially with the loss of rigidity you get with the convertible. But me personally, I love an open top car. As you can see, I'm driving this thing in the winter, which is ridiculous. Everyone's staring at me and being like, what is this guy doing? But I love it. I love having the open top. I have the windows up and it's fairly quiet in here. The top itself is really easy to use. It goes up and down fairly simply. You can just hold the button and it does the work. You don't have to, you know, secure any sort of latch like you do in a Mustang GT. You don't have to, you know, take apart anything. It's really just all automated, which you obviously want to do from a stop. So of course this is a 2014 model, so we're not going to have CarPlay, but we do have Bluetooth, and that's nice. It works fairly well. We also have Sirius XM radio. You get your 70s on 7 if you're into that. My mother-in-law is. We also have cruise control, which is easily accessible on the steering wheel, and of course we also have our volume. I do wish they included a skip track button on the steering wheel. I seem to use that in all my cars that I own, so if I had this A5, I would definitely be missing it. You do have a skip track button on the regular stack here, but it's just kind of out of the way. If you don't own this car, or if you don't daily drive it, you're gonna almost forget that you don't have a button on your steering wheel and that you kind of have to go looking for it down here, which is kind of inconvenient. We have automatic headlights in here, standard cruise control, of course, no adaptive, but that's okay. I have to give a strong compliment to the Audi team on this car because it's just really quiet even with the top down. Of course, I have my windows up, which I wouldn't on a summer's day, but with the windows up, it's just very quiet in here, and you don't really get a lot of wind noise, which you would in a lot of other convertibles. And maybe that just has to do with the shape of the car. I doubt they kind of, you know, did some sound testing in here with the top down, because really what's the point? But overall it's a very pleasant driving experience with the top down. The one thing I am missing, and of course it's because it's a winter day here, is a heated steering wheel. I don't see any sort of button for it. I know some of these manufacturers kind of hide it, but I don't see it anywhere, so I'm gonna say that it doesn't have it. And not having a heated steering wheel on a chilly winter day like this, which you normally probably wouldn't be driving with the top down anyways, but it's definitely a nice thing to have in a convertible, and I've driven convertibles with it, and it's just great. Having a heated steering wheel is something that may sound stupid until you own one with a heated steering wheel, and it's just absolutely fantastic. So these A5s are fairly fuel efficient, even with the all-wheel drive system. I will say that most of the credit is probably due to this 2-liter 4-cylinder it has, because, you know, I feel like it's kind of an underpowered car, but every single car that I've had with this 4-cylinder in it has been very fuel efficient for what the car is, even dating back to that A6 we drove a few months ago. The ride quality in here is just superb. It floats over all these little road imperfections really easily, and very soon we're going to see how it performs on the worst road in Merrimack, New Hampshire. But before we do that, let's stop and put our top up. Alright, so let's put this top up just by pushing down the little button here. And look at it start to work. fairly easy process. All I'm doing is just holding the button. And it's up. So back out onto the road with the top up, this car is fairly quiet for what it is. You know, convertibles are known to be very loud with the lack of sound deadening and the soft top, of course, instead of a hard roof. You're really going to miss out on some of the quietness that provides. And I will say I can definitely notice the difference between the A5 Coupe and this car in terms of sound deadening, but I will say that this car is still fairly quiet. At highway speeds, you might not be able to have a normal volume, conversation, but on these back roads, I'm having a good time. All right, approaching the worst road in Merrimack at 20 miles an hour. Alright, that was a little rough for this car. I will say it doesn't handle it as good as I would hope. The suspension should be fairly soft, and tuned for comfort and refinement rather than sporty and agileness, but it's a little more stiff than you'd think for an A5 convertible, which, most of the people who buy these aren't looking to track them or anything. They're gonna go for the Coupe or the S5 Coupe. As far as interior design, I do not really like the design of the steering wheel. As I said before, I wish it was a D-shaped, but the component which has the horn and the 3-spoke design to it, I'm not really a big fan of it either. And then I will say that the dashboard, you can definitely tell, is where they saved some money. We have a plastic pebble dashboard, which isn't all that good looking, and these door panels too, you'd like to see some leather or some higher quality components, especially considering this is an Audi. But so with the top up and going over some bumps, you can definitely hear a little bit of rattling going on between the soft top and the rest of the car. I don't know if it's just because of that locking mechanism that keeps the top up is maybe like a little loose, or maybe that's just kind of how they are from the factory, and that's probably where you get a different level of refinement compared to the Coupe. And in that case, if you're not a huge fan of convertibles, I would probably opt for the Coupe. But overall, this A5 still rides really nice. And I think that if someone's looking for a top-down experience and they might not have Corvette money, you're not going to get the same level of experience in terms of performance, but you're definitely going to get a car that's fairly quick. You're going to get all-wheel drive, so you can drive this thing 4 seasons, unless you, opt for one that's rear-wheel drive. And you're going to get a fairly good-looking car as well. I feel like the black on black with the black interior is a really nice color combo for these A5s. They make them quite stealth and overall still good looking, especially with the hips and the rear end of this car. Not to personify it, but overall it's just a very, very good looking car. With that being said, if you're in the market for a convertible, this is definitely a good option. For 2014, you're gonna get a screen that's not really in your way, just kind of shows you some things and is really the controls for just really your radio and your navigation and things like that, but you're most likely going to get a sort of Waze and Bluetooth experience anyways, instead of using this screen. Or you could even opt for an aftermarket solution, which obviously will come with CarPlay. If you have any questions or concerns about this A5, definitely leave them below. Please like, please subscribe, and I will see you all next time on Auto Joe. Bye-bye.